The following broadcast is brought to you by Public House Media.
Why is a baseball game a good place to go on a hot day? Because there are lots of fans. Welcome to Completely Serious. That little saying came to us from a listener that goes by the name Baby Got Dak. Must be a Dallas Cowboys fan. We do accept all kinds here on Completely Serious, so thanks for listening. Again, welcome to the podcast on Public House Media, where we have fun and talk sports. That's our tagline that we just made up. It's not official. We just I came up with it on top of my head. You won't find it on a poster or a bus stop or tattooed to someone's forehead. But it is the unofficial tagline of this show, and today we are truly deep into September. Midway through the month, you can wake me up in a couple of weeks. But first, we are chatting with Spence Siegel, the P play-by-play voice, for those who are not hip to industry lingo, for the Fort Myers Miracle. And at the podcast, I know a guy. Spence, thanks for joining us. Just want to make sure, what percentage of accuracy am I with that description?
I think you hit it about spot on, Ryan. Thanks for having me on.
Good. Okay, just want to make sure. Don't want to be factually inaccurate, but I have been, so I'm glad I got that one right. Okay, Spence, you just got through the grueling, yet I would imagine, fun summer of minor league baseball. Broadly speaking, how was your season with the Miracle?
Yeah, you put it right. I'll tell you that much. It's grueling, but it's fun, and dog days are the dog days for a reason. So when I stared up at the calendar and see that it's August 15th, basically the things that keep you going is that every day you get another game that you probably haven't seen before. So it was a fun season. We had a lot happen on our end, from a hurricane affecting the outcome of the Florida State League playoffs to ultimately at one point in July, lightning striking right outside of our field. So it was a crazy season. Weather was at the center of it, but a lot of fun, some winning baseball, and good times were had by all.
When the lightning struck, what was that like for you? Did your hair stand up? Did you feel a jolt go through your body? How did that work out?
Inside my headset, you hear a little crackle before you get the actual strike. And you wouldn't have known it at the time, but then once you go back and listen to it, you go, yeah, there it is. Sure enough, it struck. It was as loud as anything you've ever heard in your life, and as soon as it happened, everybody scurried off the field and into the dugouts as quickly as they possibly could.
How do you handle that on the radio when you see lightning hit the field? Do you describe it? Do you just scream? What's the appropriate way to handle that?
I believe my response when it struck was, "Oh, okay, let's get off the field." And from there, everybody got off the field, and then I made, a half-hearted joke saying I should probably take my headset off at this point, and we went to break.
Entirely appropriate. No, I think that is a very appropriate way to handle that sort of situation. I would imagine that was not a normal day for you.
No, we had several days this year that were not normal. I'll tell you what, though, that you go back to it being a fun season. I mean, Florida State League is a great place to be for all talent, any sort of prospects. A lot of them come through that league. Dunedin Blue Jays this year had 3 guys on the infield at one time who were sons of all former Major League ball players, with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., which is obviously Vlad's son. You've got Bo Bichette, which is Dante's son, and then Kevin Biggio, Craig's son. So all 3 of them on the field at the same time.
Do you ever find yourself looking at the players of Suns and being like, oh, I can see Vlad Guerrero in Vlad Guerrero's face? You see the comparison, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you can see the comparison both in terms of how they look and how they play on the field. But I'll tell you what, the hitting coach for the Dunedin Blue Jays, Corey Hart, he told me right off the bat when they came to visit us for the first time, he said he's not like his father in terms of him swinging everywhere at every pitch, because Vlad was the best bad ball hitter in baseball. But I'll tell you what, Junior has got a good feel for the strike zone.
I would hope being with the Fort Myers team would involve laying on a beach, maybe sipping some coconut water or whatever you do in Fort Myers, Florida, and then maybe going out to the ballpark for a couple hours and speaking into a microphone. Was that accurate, or am I wrong in saying that you get to relax all the time when you're doing baseball in Florida?
That is not the way it works, unfortunately. As much as I would love to sit on a beach and go parasailing and jet skiing every day, There's a lot of other things that go into it, at least from my perspective, for me, because it's not just talking into a microphone. When you work in minor league baseball, you work in any of the small sports, there's a lot of other work that goes into it too, whether it be graphic design work, social media, public relations, media relations, and everything in between. We had Tim Tebow come to our ballpark twice this year, and those 2 weekends alone gave us our single best 4-game stretch in the history financially of Miracle Baseball.
Wow.
So it was certainly a fun time to have him. The media was all over it. And that's the kind of stuff where if you're not prepared for it, you can get overwhelmed really quickly.
Did Tim Tebow give everybody in the crowd a blessing at one point? I heard there's rumors that he did that sometimes.
No, but I'll tell you what he did do. Every time he went and took batting practice, we did a thing where we were able to sell batting practice experiences where fans could go out behind the cage and watch the Mets take batting practice, which is an odd concept, watching the visiting team just because it's Tebow, which
Sure.
Everybody got over pretty quickly as soon as the dollars started rolling in. And with that, every time, those 4 games, he came after batting practice to each person individually, signed an autograph, took a picture, and you really couldn't ask for a dude who knows his role better than Tebow at that time.
Yeah, and in Florida, I'm sure he still has that big pull. He does throughout the country. I mean, the guy is a very popular name, obviously, and throughout all sports. Why baseball? What draws you to the sport? Is it the diamond shape of the playing surface, the crisp sound a bat makes when it connects with the baseball? What gets you revved up about baseball?
And baseball, as a play-by-play guy, and you know this too, play-by-play, there's always something that's happening at all points of the game usually. And in basketball, which you and I have done together, and other sports like football, it happens very quickly. In baseball, you do have to exhibit a little bit more patience. It's not for those who can't look away from their phone for 5 seconds. It's just, for me, it's fun because every day is a new day. You're going to see something that you may not have ever seen before. We turned a triple play this year. It was the first triple play in the history of Miracle Baseball.
Wow.
Certain things, we had 11 walk-off wins this year, which is, I believe, still more than the Dodgers to this point. I think the Dodgers have 11 as well. And it was all kinds of things that happen on the field. To me, when you get the action, it comes intermittently, and you just have to appreciate it for when it does happen.
Do you have a signature call for those walk-offs? The 11 is a lot to have in a season.
I actually was able to grab all of our video from our video guy from all 11 and then sync the calls with them. And
sure.
They do all sound different. That's because we had them in all different kinds of ways. We had a walk-off error. We had three walk-off home runs. Doubles, singles, you name it. We were able to make it happen. Unfortunately, the final walk-off of the season was not good from our perspective. It was the deciding game of the championship series, where ultimately in the bottom of the 9th on the road, a walk-off hit by pitch ended our season. But it was a fun season overall.
This is the podcast where we have fun and talk sports, but this next question is neither fun or about sports. Fort Myers was in the path of Hurricane Irma and the bad storms they had down south. How is the city, how is your team holding up?
The team is doing a really good job of getting everybody together and starting the relief efforts, because although the hurricane itself was not as bad as projected, I know my apartment where I live right now, they said you need to get out, you need to evacuate, which I did. But they expected a Category 4, and fortunately, as most people know at this point, it was down to a Category 2, maybe a small Category 3 by the time it hit Fort Myers. So the damage wasn't nearly as bad, but there's still damage that comes with a hurricane, because at the end of the day, it's a hurricane.
Yeah.
So
big thing.
We have a lot of relief efforts. Yeah, it's a big thing. And we've had a lot of relief efforts now started by the Miracle Relief Fund. We're doing all sorts of things this year, not just donations, but contributions from the front office staff to get people into the community and help the rebuilding effort where people didn't have the fortunate ability to escape some of the damage. And then we're going to be putting on different events throughout the year where the proceeds from those events will go towards the Hurricane Relief Fund.
Very nice. Tell me about the I Know a Guy podcast you host. Do you have a catchphrase as good as the show where we have fun and talk sports?
I think if you go back to the first ever episode of I Know a Guy, which I'm going to start getting more of those out once we get to this off season now and get through this Hurricane Irma relief work that we all have. I think if you go back to the first one, the first sentence or two that I said was, we want to have fun and talk sports. It's along the same lines. And I mean, what else can you do when you're talking about sports? I mean,
no, you're
what
right.
Are you going to do? Take it seriously?
Well, that's what we have, the show completely serious. But you're right. The irony, we do have fun and talk sports, and that's a really good point. Okay, you're a baseball guy, a sports guy, but your baseball knowledge is nearly unrivaled. There are some crazy, cray-cray things happening in the MLB right now. Can you explain the Indians, explain the Dodgers? Because I don't think anyone can really explain both teams right now.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you talking me up past the point that you needed to, because I'm certainly rivaled. I can start with my Fort Myers manager, Doug Minkiewicz, this year, who's one of the smartest baseball minds I've ever run into.
Oh, there we go.
But I will say that those two things are so baseball. They couldn't be more baseball than the best team who, for months, we were looking at comparisons with what they were on pace for, how many wins they were on pace for to try and break the all-time single-season wins record. And now they've lost, 15 of 16 or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's pretty close.
16 of 17?
Yeah, the Indians just got their 22nd in a row. It's like the complete opposite.
Right, so the Indians break the record for the most wins in American League history, and people are going, well, they're peaking at the wrong time, and then now they're not going to do well in the playoffs. And then the Dodgers are on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, where they're losing pretty much every game that they can in every conceivable way, and they're going, well, they're slumping at the wrong time because they need to get hot for the playoffs. So my question is, if you're a baseball fan, what are you happy with? If you're the Indians, do you want them to lose a couple of games? I think that's ridiculous. I think winning ultimately cultivates the atmosphere to grab a championship. And so, yeah, they're probably not going to sweep their way through to the World Series from this point forward, but if you win games, that puts it in the back of all of the players' heads that, hey, we can do this now, we can do this in October, and if we have a 3-1 lead in the World Series this year, maybe we'll close it out.
I think I want to be, and I think still, if you look at the rosters, the Indians and Dodgers are tough to top. I kind of like where the Nationals are at. They're kind of hanging out in the corner out there in the National League East. Nobody's really challenging them, just kind of waiting for the playoffs. Nobody was really paying attention. I think I want to be maybe in that spot where I'm just kind of hanging out, waiting for the postseason.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where some of these good teams ultimately end up, because there are right now some aces who are not pitching like aces. Scherzer just gave up 7 tonight against who are they playing? Who did they lose to tonight? Oh, the Braves. They gave up 7 at home against the Braves. And so with him and Kershaw's shaky past in the postseason, I'm interested to see where the teams who haven't been there are how they fare, because if the Brewers make a run and they get past the Cubs somehow in the NL Central, after they swept them last week, I think they could be a sleeper team that nobody talks about. And in the American League, you've got a couple of teams who haven't been there before to this level, and nobody seems to be talking about the Astros anymore. They just got Carlos Correa back. You put him into that lineup, and all of a sudden, nobody really cares how many games in a row the Indians have won.
Yeah, that could be a crazy American League Championship Series if it is the Astros and Indians. But then again, the Yankees are still hitting home runs. Boston has got those aces that are primed for the postseason. And then in the National League, of course, I think that's a great point. Eric Thames just hit his 30th home run tonight. The Brewers team is stacked. They could be a tough team to beat.
Sometimes expectations going into the beginning of the season can really turn around how you feel about the end of a year. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention the team that is our parent club in Fort Myers, which is the Minnesota Twins. They had no shot to make the playoffs if you ask people at the beginning of this year. Now they're sitting in the second wild card and have a chance, at least if they play 500 ball down the stretch, to have a one-game playoff to potentially play the best team in the American League.
Yeah, those Twins are young and they're good. That's a good team to watch out for in the postseason. I want to play a game, not to sound like the old man from Saw, but I want to play an association game. I'm going to describe here, I want you to describe this MLB season in 3 sounds. So 3 onomatopoeias, to use a big word, to describe the Major League Baseball season to this point. I'll give you my examples, and then maybe you can have a couple to throw in there and then explain. Mine are pow, and what? I say because it's a quick sound, and even though baseball is a long season, I think it's gone by extremely fast. Pow, because I feel like it's a good sound for home runs, and there's been so many homers this season. And what? Because I feel like every time I turn around, something crazy or confusing is happening this baseball season. The Indians and the Dodgers are a perfect example. 2 teams that are just going on these crazy runs that was completely unexpected. And I think what is a pretty good sound/phrase to work for the baseball season. But for you, what are 3 sounds you can come up with to describe how this bizarre and really wonderful baseball season has been so far this year? Do any come to mind?
Well, that's a tough one. You went with pow. I think the first one that I'd have to go with is just boom. I don't think that really. I think that usually sums it up in one onomatopoeia right there with the idea that people are hitting home runs this year like nobody else's business. I think smack might be one that you could throw out there because there's been a lot of jawing going on this year, and there's been a few more real baseball brawls than we're used to seeing. At least the Yankees and the Tigers gave us that one, which was probably the best of the year. And Bryce Harper just missed with his helmet on Hunter Strickland, which had he connected on that one, that would have rivaled the Ventura Nolan Ryan one from years past. So I would say smack, boom, and then I don't know, I'm lost on a third one. Can you help me out?
Those are pretty good. I like the Bryce Harper mention because it seems like it happened like last season. It was so long ago. But yeah, I like the smack and I like the pow the boom. Those are good. Maybe something as basic as whoa, as in just some of the plays and the excitement of the young talent this year in baseball. I feel like, and we saw it kind of last year bloom, there's so much talent, players under 25, 26, 27, that are just growing into their own this season. It's been great to see a lot of these young guys. Some players we're not even talking about because their teams are out of playoff races. The kid from Philly comes to mind. That have been playing so well.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I've got one.
Okay.
Whoosh because
I like it.
Because whoosh, that gives you everything you need to know about the speed of the game this year. Not only are people hitting more home runs this year, but some of the times that people are running from home plate to third base, or in Byron Buxton's case, home plate to home plate, are absolutely ridiculous. And here's a stat that's going to sound really good, and then once you dissect it, it won't sound as good, which is Byron Buxton has hit the fastest inside the park home run in the StatCast era.
Oh, I like that.
The StatCast era might have only been around for 3 years to this point, but it's still the fastest one.
Well, I would guess you watch Byron Buxton run, and there's a couple guys throughout baseball that have incredible speed. Buxton probably is the fastest, I would say. That I would guess that's near the top of any home plate to home plate run in the history of baseball. The guy's got such incredible speed. And you're right. You think about players these days are so quick from first to third and from second to home. The game has just changed in that way because teams know that is where you can squeak across an extra 1 or 2 runs that might get you a victory.
Yeah, and what's also getting lost in that too, which I think people are starting to pick up on, is guys like Buxton and Billy Hamilton, even though they can't swing the bat yet the way that they want to, and they're in the outfield. You talk about defensive runs saved, and that's not a stat that people understand because there's no real way to quantify it, but those guys are super fast in center field, and they're going to run down just about any ball and make most of them look routine, where if you and I were chasing it down, we wouldn't even get halfway there.
Oh, no, definitely not me. I think you're underselling yourself, though. I've seen you run. I think you can maybe make a play on some of these. I love the stat of route efficiency in baseball, and I like how that's been tracked more frequently this year. Seeing how efficient an outfielder tracks down at baseball, I think, is a cool way to maybe quantify defense, which is a little, as you mentioned, a little tougher to put in numbers in baseball.
Yeah, but they are coming up with a way to quantify it too, which people, once they understand it, I think if it gets explained to them, will start to make more sense. They rate catches by stars now, so it can be a 5-star catch, a 4-star catch. And that basically just says from the point when the ball was hit, where the fielder was positioned, by the time he has to get to the ball where it's going, what is the percentage likelihood that he makes that catch? And if it's below a certain percentage, it's a 5-star catch. Usually, I think for a 5-star catch, it has to be, I think 0 to 5% or 0 to 10% catch probability, which you talked about. And those types of things help give people an idea of, oh man, that's a 5-star catch. That's a really tough play that he just made look easy.
I like that. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you get stars for doing chores or good deeds or things like that. And it's that simple. It kind of has that kid concept to it. I like it.
Yeah, well, baseball's a kid's game, you know?
Oh, well said. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, I have one more bit. I want to play one more game. Basically, I'm going to give you 4 scenarios that could pop up. And I want you to tell me which baseball player you'd want in each scenario. I actually have 5. I lied. I got 5 scenarios.
All right. And
I want you to tell me who would you want. Okay, bottom of the 9th. Here's the first one. The bottom of inning number 9. 2 outs. And if you don't get a home run, for some reason and the rules have changed and you must get a home run, your team will lose. Who would you want at that plate, bottom 9th, 2 outs, to hit a home run specifically?
Bottom 9, 2 outs. I'm taking Manny Machado.
Oh, okay.
That's my guy.
I like that curveball. Why Manny? And that's a good pick, and I think he's an underrated player, but why Manny?
He's done it this year, I think twice now.
Mm-hmm.
I know he did it at least once, down to his last strike, down a run, and hit a 2-run home run. So there you go. He did need a home run, realistically.
Sure.
And he's just – some guys just have that clutch gene that others don't, and that he is one of them.
Game 7, win or go home. Who do you want pitching for Game 7?
Is this their third start of that series?
That's a good question.
1 and 4 also?
They started game number 3, but it'd be their turn to start, so they'd be fresh.
All right, so he's got some full rest. Okay.
Yes.
I think you'd be wrong if you said anybody but Madison Bumgarner, right?
Okay, I like that. The postseason experience,
that's the guy.
I like it. Matty Bum. Okay, it's a kid's day at the ballpark. You need one guy to sign an autograph and be friendly, but you don't want to scare the kids. So a player needs to be friendly and not scary. Who do you pick?
Francisco Lindor loves the game.
Love it. He's not a scary guy. He'd be a perfect one.
Yeah, he's basically like a kid, too, because he's not very big, but he hits home runs. He's one of the best shortstops, and he'll definitely take time for a kid. Or Tim Tebow. Can I go with Tebow?
He is a professional baseball player. I think that is a great pick. Both would be good.
All right, that's enough Tebow for this podcast,
sure.
Please.
You need someone to sell nachos to fans. You're short a nacho dealer, and Chris Christie is busy that day. Who do you pick?
Gotta sell nachos.
The next one's even tougher, so get ready.
If my primary goal is to make money and I need to sell the nachos, I'm probably going to put a big hat and an apron on Bartolo Colon and tell him to walk around the ballpark. People will buy from him. He's just a goofy dude.
That is the 100% correct answer. Well done. I think Bartolo would be the perfect guy, and he's got that kind of chef cook look to him. I like that a lot. It's your nephew's 2nd birthday. Last question. It's your nephew's 2nd birthday. The clown didn't show up because he was hungover. Someone needs to come over, put the makeup on. Who's going to be your clown? Who's going to be your it?
Who's my clown?
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many great clowns in baseball. there really are. And so I'll throw people with a name that hopefully when they hear it 3-4 years from now they might remember it once. Dude on our team, on the Miracle. He's a top prospect for the Minnesota Twins. He's a pitcher out of Australia, lefty. His name is Lewis Thorpe. And he's a dude who will always be happy to clown around in the clubhouse. When we won the division and we were popping bottles in the clubhouse after the win, he was the wildest, craziest man doing dances in the middle of a ring of people. He's the guy. Absolutely. Lewis Thorpe. Remember that name, and he can be your clown, too.
Anybody listening in the future right now, maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, Lewis Thorpe, the name was first said on this podcast, and now you're watching him play in the major leagues. If you happen to be looking through the archives, Lewis Thorpe has been said on this podcast. Very nice. Spence Siegel, thank you so much for joining Completely Serious on Public House Media.
Hey, Ryan, I appreciate it, man. We'll have you on. I know a guy soon, too. We'll get you on and we'll do a podcast.
Perfect. Trading off podcast. I like that. Well, Spence Siegel, thanks a ton, and thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on Completely Serious.